Welcome. My name is Kelly.
My name is Jamie.
And this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media.
And I do mean favorite. Obviously, a lot of the things we talk about are my favorite, but guys, this is a favorite. And I'm so excited.
Favorite? The favorites of favorites.
Yeah.
We're talking about the anime, Given.
Woo!
Yeah. Does that sound exciting?
Yeah, of course. I'm just picturing like one person in like a theater or something like, yeah! Woo!
Woo! No, it's a huge crowd of roaring fans because
Perfect.
who are all at a rock concert ready to listen to the band.
Perfect. Of course.
Of course. Given is a 2019 anime following these high school boys who happen to be in a band, and they're cute and awesome and they love each other.
Yeah, I feel like it's fine to say that right out the gate. Like, that's a pretty big part of the it's not like a spoiler or anything. No, it's a boys' love story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the romance category. I would say if you're looking for a romance, this would be something you would go to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I would say like a slice of life romance drama about these two guys, and it is a roller coaster in the best way.
It is. Oh my gosh, yeah.
So first and foremost, like quick synopsis, other than the fact that they're just in a band, it follows mainly, and we were just talking about this before we recorded, by the way, that the names are a little challenging.
I'm a bit confident though. I can take my best shot. I feel pretty good about it.
Oh, okay.
Because the main character is Uenoyama Ritsuka, right? And the secondary character, who's also a main character, but it's not his point of view, is Mafuyu Sato, I think. I'm like 90% sure I've got the syllables right on this.
I think Ritsuka his first name, and Uenoyama is his last name.
Oh, you might be right.
And then Mafuyu, that's his first name, and Sato is his last name.
I'm not sure. But his sister calls him Ritsuka, and everyone else calls him Uenoyama.
Yes, because that's his last name.
That must be it. Yeah.
And that's why we're confused, everyone. It's because everyone calls Uenoyama. I can't even say it. They all call him his last name. And then Mafuyu Soto, everyone calls him his first name. And so it's like, wait a minute.
Well, this is the in the other one we recorded. I also apologize to all of Japan, and I'm gonna have to do it again because I think we're just a little off on like the entire concept of names, because like there's I'm fairly sure one is for your family and like really really people who are super close to you, and the other one is for everyone else, I think.
I think there is definitely like in a lot of anime there's that cultural thing of like the social thing of like if you call someone by their first name, like you have to ask permission to be able to call them by their first name.
Right, very personal.
And like in a lot of romance anime, that's like a big step, right? And your relationship development is like and to add to the confusion, in Japan they say it the opposite way. Like if here, like in the US, I would say my name is Kelly Anderson.
But I gotcha.
Over there, you would say I'm Anderson Kelly.
Yeah.
And so again, there's a lot of stuff.
It can definitely be hard to get used to for anyone from like Western countries, probably.
Yes. So anyway, that's a whole long spiel about their names. We're gonna do our best, and like, I am trying my hardest to say Uenoyama. And I'm gonna have to just look at my notes every time.
I think the tricky thing is it's almost like the first syllable is a W. It's like we, you know, like Uenoyama.
Uenoyama.
Because that's how Mafuyu says it. He always says like Uenoyama-kun. He always says like all 6 syllables right in a row, it's got like a rhythm to it. Yeah,
it's very cute. Okay, Uenoyama. I'll try that. We'll go by that, and then we'll go Mafuyu.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the rest I think are a little more easy. But
right.
Anyway, it follows After all of that.
Yeah.
We're following Winuyama and Mafuyu as they are high school students, and they actually don't actually know each other very well. But Winuyama goes to his favorite napping spot behind the gym and just happens to run into this kid who's taking up his spot.
He's like, how dare you be in my favorite napping spot?
It's my nap time. Yeah. You will soon learn that Winuyama does not have high grades.
Right.
Because he goes to nap.
Oh, yeah.
And Mafuyu happens to have this very fancy guitar, but doesn't know how to use it. And Winuyama...
nothing. He knows so little about music or guitars.
Didn't even
and everyone's
know...
like, why do you have this? Yeah.
Why do you have this amazing guitar? He didn't even know that, yes, strings break on guitars, and that is okay. And so Winuyama just happens to be a musical prodigy.
Oh, yeah.
And plays the guitar. What? So, of course, Mafuyu convinces him to teach him and eventually ends up in his band because, spoiler alert for this whole show, by the way.
Oh, yeah, we're going to spoil quite a bit.
Spoiler warning, Mafuyu has the voice of an angel.
Yeah.
And that's how he gets into the band. So it's about these characters. It's about this band. The whole band as a whole. It's about all these characters. Slice of life. They're going through their day, and it's just sweet. And Winuyama and Mafuyu are like learning about each other, and you go through their backstories, and it's all very emotional and fantastic. So that's like your basic springboard into this show. But, and this is a very, not very, but like more recent of a show than like, we talk about things that are from all over the place. So in my perspective, I'm like, 2019, this is a more recent show.
No, I feel the same way, yeah.
And because of that, like, this is a little more interesting of a question because it might not be a very long history. But Jamie, what is your history with this show?
Yeah.
When did you first watch it? And, what's been your history as a fan of this show?
I think I was a bit late to the party. I think it was 2020. It might have been somebody like sent me a trailer or like a post about it or something, and basically said one of those things that like really only friends can say, or else it's super rude, which is like, "Hey, saw this gay show and I thought of you," right? And like I was like, okay, I'm intrigued, so I'll go check it out. And I hadn't really seen any. I was gonna say I haven't seen any gay anime before this. I don't think I've seen like any story that focused on gay characters as much as this, honestly.
Wait, did you watch Yuri on Ice later than this?
It sure might have been. Sure.
Because I know you watched Yuri on Ice later than, like, after it all finished airing and everything. But was it this late?
You know what? I think you're right. I think Yuri on Ice was first. I need to retract that thing I said because I was slightly incorrect. Maybe it might be better to say this is the first like the first story I came across where it was like the selling point is that it's gay characters, and that's like part of that's I don't know why I'm trying to compare the two, because I don't really need to compare the two shows, but like for some reason I felt like I was more aware that this one was going to be gay, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like
totally.
maybe I was just a little oblivious when I watched Yuri on Ice until the end.
Yes, and I would say like it's more explicit with Given, and Yuri on Ice they covered a lot of things up. It was very subtextual.
And I think you could make the argument that it is a show about skating. Even though like the characters, the relationship is crazy important, don't get me wrong, but in this one it feels more like this is a show about a relationship starting,
right?
You know,
like we were saying, like Yuri on Ice is a sports anime. Given is a romance anime.
That's a good way to put it. Gotcha. Yeah. All that is to say, it feels like when I watched it, I was discovering something that I didn't know could be a thing, you know? There was something I don't know. I felt like I immediately wanted to tell so many people about it because I was just like, you guys, stories can be gay. I didn't know this.
Yes.
And I was absolutely entranced, right? And then unfortunately it only had the one season, so there was a long stretch of time. Then eventually there was a movie and a little short OVA episode after that. But because so much time had passed, I did not watch those when they came out. So just recently I rewatched the show again and then finally got to the movie and the new short thing. So it still feels very fresh in my mind because I have gone through the whole thing a second time now, and I have the extra supplementary stuff as well, and now I feel like I really do finally have the whole story, even though the manga is still going.
The manga is ongoing.
Yeah.
So you
haven't read it.
Read it? Okay.
No. But I've heard the story continues.
It does.
Which is kind of exciting.
Very exciting. Like, I don't read a ton of manga, but this is definitely one that I would add to my list and look into because, like, man, it really gets me.
Good.
It's so
good.
For those of you who don't know, like, this definitely is my first time watching this show at all. This is come recommended via Jamie. So, and you know, usually it is the opposite on this podcast.
Right.
That I have found something that I am obsessed with and will then drag my friends into, and they will come kicking and screaming until they see it, and then they will be pacified. But this time, it was my turn to be dragged into a show that I knew nothing about. But I knew that it was about music. And B, Jamie loves music, and so Jamie loves it. So I was like, yes, I need to watch this. To be honest, the show has been so good, but like, and we'll get to the movie later more deeply. But like, it's the movie that wrecked me.
Oh my gosh! Right? I was like, I just finished watching it. I think yesterday. I was losing my mind. Like, I knew it was going to be slightly different. I knew there would be a slightly different story going on, but I wasn't ready for that.
No.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm getting super ahead of myself here.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, but I just wanted to say that right off the bat.
Given the show was like, we're going to take a very close look at the beginning of a relationship, and it's going to be wonderful and weird, and there will be some sad moments, but it'll be mostly this really beautiful thing. Given the movie is like, yo, let's take a look at the end of a really, really dark, horrible relationship that's like super sad for everyone involved. And I was like, I didn't expect you to do that. Oh my gosh.
And like but it doesn't work unless you've seen the show.
Right. You know? Yes. Oh my gosh.
And it's fantastic. Okay. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. Way ahead. But I had to say that. And we will get into the nitty gritty of the film. And that's that'll be my little hook to get you to listen to the entire episode. Yeah. But truly, like, I wouldn't say this like everyone needs to, you know, see this show or whatever. Sure, I will get on the podium and say that everyone should watch this movie.
Oh man.
But I should also warn as well, especially with the movie, a little less so with the TV show, but mature audiences for this one, folks.
Yes, definitely noticed that. Yes,
the movie especially is for some explicit scenes.
They must have had more leeway than they did with the actual show because they got away with some more explicit stuff. I was very surprised. I
mean, like, just straight up sex on the couch with everybody. That's what you're getting into for the movie. And maybe part of it too is that the movie follows the college students and the
right the older
the
characters.
show is about the high schoolers. But anyway, warning on that when you're watching this show.
No, that's a good call.
Yeah. But with all that, huge tease into the film. But
yeah.
Let's start with Mafuyu because I think he's the main character. Well, I don't know. I think you can argue. You can make arguments for both.
Yes, I was talking about this with Oliver. Like, it's so interesting because I was convinced that it's Uenoyama's story and he's the main character, and then like on a rewatch, I was like, maybe maybe it's Mafuyu's story and he's just like the perspective character, and like the way he changes is super important, but he changes because of Mafuyu. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it feels like he's, even though he's not the person, he's not the protagonist, but he is the main. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yes, it really is, because like Hunuyama is the one who changes and develops and grows, but it's Mafuyu. Mafuyu is the catalyst for a lot of change, but Mafuyu changes too. I think what it is that like it's almost like Mafuyu is supposed to be the protagonist because it's like his story, he's the one like learning music. He's the one doing all this, but they twist it in a way that you don't expect from a normal show, and make the perspective it's like from the side character's perspective, almost, if that makes sense.
Which I don't think would work if their relationship didn't become so important and so like specifically romantic. Like, because if he was just some guy who's also in the band, it wouldn't make sense for him to be the point of view and the protagonist, you know?
Yeah. Also, part of it too is like, well, Mafuyu is also not very expressive. It's interesting because like he's not a very expressive character, and yet when he is, it feels stronger because he isn't.
Definitely.
And of course you have to have Wenuyama as the audience perspective, because part of the show is this mystery behind Mafuyu, right? Like,
right.
Is all of his backstory and the stuff that he doesn't tell right away. That's a
good point. There's a lot you don't get about him until like near the end of the show, now that I think about it. Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. There's a lot of information kept from you.
You know what it is? It's kind of like that. It's kind of like the Gatsby idea of like Nick.
Okay.
Nick isn't the main character, but Nick is how the audience views Gatsby, because Gatsby is the main character, and this is the same way. So
yeah.
You got Mafuyu as Gatsby, the main character, but you don't see it through Gatsby's eyes. You see it through Winuyama's eyes.
Yeah, you know what? I hadn't sat down and thought about that, but like, he really is kind of an enigma for a lot of the story. There's so little that you get from his perspective. You get a scene or two here and there from his perspective, but you don't get like the information. Boy, yeah. That also makes more sense as to why Wenuyama is like more of a traditional anime protagonist, of like, he doesn't have a whole lot of dark secrets. He's pretty like hard on his sleeve, even if he is kind of emo and grumpy all the time and a doofus. And when you put it that way, it does make a lot more sense of how they wrote it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's super interesting.
we discover things on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's the point. But yeah, that's Wenuyama. He's like, he honestly, like, Mafuyu sparks his passion for writing music again, and like just becomes more engaged with life, I feel, like he was just kind of like going through the motions, and then of course like the romance in his eyes, like, what
what kills me about that is that he doesn't realize it, but everyone else does. That is like, immediately his other bandmates are like, boy, you're actually enjoying music and stuff a lot more lately. What's up with that? And he's just like, really? Huh. I wonder what's changed recently. Oh, well, and like goes about with his life.
Not the new band member that you have or something? My goodness gracious.
Oh, it's amazing. This is probably my favorite example of someone being oblivious to their own feelings, because that can be super annoying if you don't do it well.
Yes.
But for some reason, I really felt like it worked this time. And I don't know if it's just because they really got the comedy on point, and they really got, like, what is going to make this funniest in these scenes of him being oblivious, or if it's because they did a good job of convincing us he has enough other stuff going on that he genuinely wouldn't realize it. Like, he's working on the band, he's writing music, he's really, really so committed to his own skills and his own practicing and stuff that I was like, you know what? I guess I actually kind of buy it that he genuinely didn't figure out his feelings yet. Like, it surprised me too. Yeah.
I buy it because I think he's just an idiot.
Okay, we got two very different ending points of this interpretation. Yeah. Oh,
but you're right in that a lot of the times they drag it on and on as a plot point and to get people interested, because like once you admit that they love each other, then that's the end. But like in this, it doesn't feel that way, because like I feel like Yama is just genuinely, that's who he is. And I don't know.
Yeah, I could buy that.
It's just, they're both such big idiots, and like I don't know how anything ever even happened with them. Yeah. It's so fantastic. And then Mafuyu is
my boy.
Like, okay, I don't. Mafuyu is so different. Like, here's Oniyama, who's like your typical anime guy, and then here's Mafuyu, who's just an enigma.
Right,
like,
right.
Because he is super quiet and super, like, not emotive, and yet he's the one who gets like the sparkly eyes when they go to the like, guitar store or whatever.
Yeah, over something as simple as like hearing a chord. And he's just like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. And Oniyama is like, what is wrong with you?
He's so enamored with this music, and like, it's just like, I mean, he's a kid in a candy store. It's like, I mean, I think anyone can relate to the fact of like, when you first start something new, you're just absolutely in awe of everything. And like, that's how he is. Like, he's starting music for the first time, and he's like just absolutely like head over heels about it all, and finds every little facet of it fascinating. And then when he does emote and like have those moments where he's just this, like, you just are just like, this cute precious being, I want to protect him with my life.
I would die for Mafuyu Sato. Yeah, I'm gonna make t-shirts. What was so fascinating to me about how they set up his personality is that I started the show, and when I watched this the first time, I felt like guilty about the way I watched this show. I felt like genuinely bad about it, because I saw him in the first couple episodes and I was like, oh, okay, that's a weird style and a weird design for this character. They make him look very, very quiet and like almost solemn, and like his eyes are half closed a lot of the time. Like, a weird design choice, but it's anime, whatever. And then you get to episode 3 and he starts opening up a little bit and saying like, people have told me that I look like I'm thinking about nothing, and that I look like I have no emotions, and sometimes I'm afraid that they're right. And I'm like, oh my god, I feel so bad for everything I assumed. This is part of the plot. This is part of he knows this. This is part of his character. Like, him being drawn a certain way is not a style choice. It's because that's literally who the character is. Yes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. And from there, I was suddenly thinking about like, oh my gosh, like they don't put a name to any certain kind of like neurodivergence for this character. They don't say like, oh, he has da-da-da or anything like that. So it's a little bit up to interpretation. But like, there are so many examples of things he talks about of like, I don't know what the right thing I should be feeling is all the time. Sometimes people look at me like they're wondering why I'm not showing more emotion. I don't know how to act in certain situations. And you realize that like, him not fitting in, him not always knowing the right social graces or whatever, or the right emotions, is part of why he's so afraid to make connections and to let his walls down and stuff. And like, I felt so silly for not putting those two things together earlier. Like, it was so interesting to discover that, I guess, and to realize, oh my gosh, not only is there more depth to this character than I thought, but it was depth in a way I didn't even know could be spoken. Like, and I was only on episode like 3 at this point. There was still like 3/4 of the show to go. Oh my gosh, I was so blown away. Mafuyu is incredible. He's one of my favorite characters of anything.
Oh, absolutely. And like, it's, this is a show also about grief.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to that yet.
And a big aspect of this plot and the mysteries that are unfolding about Mafuyu is that he's struggling with the loss of his boyfriend who committed suicide, and his mom let him keep his guitar. So that's why he has this fancy guitar, right?
It really packs a punch of all the times earlier in the show when someone's like, why do you even have that guitar if you don't know how to play it?
Right.
And like at the time it seems silly and quirky, and then you get further into the show and you're just like, oh no. Oh, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah. And to watch Mafuyu, you know, I don't know, just like find more joy and find more...
Yeah.
Like, honestly, he's able to find a way to express himself and express his feelings. Like you were saying, like he has a hard time expressing them, and he's able to with writing the lyrics for this song that happens near the end.
Oh my goodness.
And it's really beautiful, and I love it.
There are so many that backstory that you learn about at a certain point in the show. There's so many things that are like a clue pointing towards it that you don't know about until you've already seen it. The byline of the show being "Can't Say Goodbye, I'm Still Drifting with the Echoes," like that. I think personally that it was translated to sound like a cool rock album thing, but it's literally like about Yuki. It's like about his boyfriend and how he doesn't know how to move on. Like it absolutely killed me when I think one of his old childhood friends who knows about all his past stuff says something like you're getting into music, is that because you're trying to stay positive or because you don't know how to move on? And I remember writing that down because I was like, that's it. That's the show. That's the show. That's it. And like,
and then he responds and he says, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my God. My heart broke for him. Like, it's so interesting how music is interwoven into that part of the story, and that like there are some very obvious elements like guitar strings representing heartstrings and stuff like that. There's some very obvious metaphors, but there's also so much more to it. Like the way these themes work together absolutely kills me. And I was just hoping that it would be like a fun show with gay characters. I wasn't expecting like all of this, and I'm so happy it was so much more fulfilling than I could have guessed just from hearing about it, you know? Like, man,
yeah.
I was completely blown away. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, Mafuyu, it's so interesting, like, not seeing things from his perspective because, like, they're able, like, to show his progress in other ways than just going through, like, the monologue in his head.
Yeah, and it's that's like, absolutely true.
And it's so much more engaging that way. So things like his responses to questions like that, or his ability or inability sometimes to write lyrics, and all of that. It's so good. It's so good.
The lyrics thing is wild because the other characters are kind of pushing and prodding him like, you should write about what you're feeling. You should write about what's in your heart. And when he's having a really hard time doing that, they're kind of pushing him to like let it out. Like if there's something that you want to say, if there's something that you're having trouble with or struggling with, like you should put that into this. Like, let's go. Why are you not able to? Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating because technically they are sort of correct in that that's what he ends up doing, but they also have no idea what he went through, you know? Yeah. So, like, there's this weird dichotomy of them technically saying the right thing and technically being supportive in that way, while also not knowing what's really going on. And we don't know at first either, because we're just watching this. And, like, when you know the full story about Yuki and everything, it recontextualizes so much from the first part of the show. Oh my gosh. There's the first, like, the opening theme song of episode 1 has like hints about what happened and stuff, but they go by so fast that you don't notice them because you're just starting the show. Mm-hmm. And like all the references to winter and that byline, drifting in the echoes, or drifting with your echoes, I think there's so much stuff at the beginning that is foreshadowing towards learning about this horrible event, right? And like Mafuyu trying to deal with that, and you're able to look back at the episodes you've already watched and realize that that's what he's been doing the whole time. Like, the episode where he's just going to different places in the city, and you think, oh, he's trying to come up with lyrics by just thinking a lot. You suddenly realize, oh, that's why he ended up staring out over the ocean. Like, suddenly all of the stuff from earlier... Yeah, all of the stuff you saw earlier suddenly is put into a new light, and it kills me. Oh my gosh. I absolutely love the way... And I'm tangenting a little bit, but I'm so grateful that they made Yuki also really likable. Like,
yes,
I got a weird feeling of like, it would have been pretty easy to make this like past boyfriend bad, future boyfriend good. Like, it would have been really easy to just make him kind of frustrating or unlikable in some way. But instead, when you get some flashbacks and memories and stuff of him, he's delightful. Like, he seems like this great guy, but the only thing that keeps you from thinking like, oh my gosh, the only thing that keeps you from having 100% positive feelings, is what I should say, is knowing about his struggles with depression. And like, that takes like a slightly darker tone over everything, because you know that he doesn't make it out, unfortunately. And like, having that and seeing these memories is just killer, because they look so happy. They look so delighted to be together. And like, knowing that Mafuyu has those memories and is trying to find the way to express them, the way to move on, or the way to properly hold on to them. Like, he doesn't know how to even begin doing any of those things, or which ones are the right ones. And knowing that is just, it's a lot. It's like a punch to the chest, man. It's good stuff.
So I'm like looking forward to rewatching it at some point, and having, knowing what I know now, and like going into it. It's one of those shows that I think has a lot of rewatch value.
Can I say one quick thing about Uenoyama before we move on to other stuff?
Yeah, totally.
Because I forgot. I think it is fair to say he does not have the... He doesn't have the mystery and depth and complexity of Mafuyu, right? But I still really, really like him. And the big reason for that is because there's the stuff we already talked about, how he's kind of goofy, how he's kind of grumpy all the time, how he's introduced with the napping thing, that's hilarious. And like, I really do like how he changes and how Mafuyu has an effect on him, and how he like how he tries... His interactions with Mafuyu just as a bandmate are hysterical, because he's like, he asks him to join the band, and at first Mafuyu says no, and that's super interesting, and you're like, why doesn't he want to? I wonder what's going on there. But Uenoyama just... he doesn't really know how to take that, so you catch him like looking up on his phone articles saying like, how do I ask somebody out if they've already rejected me once?
Oh my goodness.
Of course, in his head he's still like, yes, this is a perfectly platonic thing that I'm asking a person for to join my band, and for no other reason.
No. He just doesn't know.
He doesn't know. And the other guys figure it out long before he does.
Like, one of my favorite endings of an episode is like when Mafuyu admits that he's had a boyfriend and like everything, and then Uenoyama's just like,
oh,
what is this feeling? Oh, it's jealousy. And you're like, duh.
He's like, why could I possibly be jealous in this situation? Oh, I love him. He's such a dork.
What a dork.
I think it's episode... I'm not going to guess a number, but there's a moment that might be my favorite scene in the whole show, except for the ending song, because the ending song will always stand out above everything. But other than that, my favorite moment is this scene where the drummer, Akihiko, like, I think he pulls him out of their practice. He pulls him out of their rehearsal, and he's like, hey, you are acting weirder than usual, and you're, like, being short-tempered with Mafuyu, like, what's going on? And he kind of bullies him into admitting what's happening and that he has feelings for him, right? And there is this moment where I think while I was watching it, I was expecting Uenoyama to respond one of a couple different ways, right? I was expecting him to respond with snark and sarcasm, or to deny it and pretend like nothing was going on, or just be really embarrassed, like, oh, whatever, man, let's get back to practice. I was expecting any one of those things. And there is this moment where, like, there's no music, and he drops all of the emo grumpiness and everything else, and he looks up at him with this expression of fear, and he says, is there something wrong with me? And I, like, started crying.
Yeah.
Because, like, anyone who was raised not knowing much about the LGBTQ community and then realizing that they are indeed something other than the normal they were expecting in their identity, right? Anyone who's been through that knows what that feeling is like, and knows what it is like to bring it up with another person who might not react well. And, like, the look in his eyes is something I think I will always remember, because it is so personal, and it's so haunting to have that worry that the rest of the scene and Akihiko's response could have made me hate this show. Like, it could have made me absolutely drop it if they didn't decide to go in the direction they did, which is Akihiko not only saying, yeah, of course it's fine, why would there be anything wrong with it, but also basically coming out and saying, I'm bi. Like, he essentially tells him, what, are you going to say there's something wrong with me too? And Uenoyama, like, spits out his drink because he's completely floored. He was not expecting that.
Right.
And that made me want to cry too, because, like, his bandmate, who's essentially acting like his older brother in this situation, just being like, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear so that you can be encouraged and not freaking out, but I'm also going to trust you with this part of my identity too. And, like, that got me, man. I did not know how badly I needed to see a scene like that, like, until I got it, you know?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Something about that just... And it couldn't happen with Mafuyu, you know? Because he has got his own world of different issues and themes that are happening with his character. This isn't really one of them. He's never shown as, like... he's never really shown as uncertain about being gay or, like, afraid of the implications or anything like that. So it had to come to Uenoyama, and to see him drop all of that facade of, like, being too cool for this and, like, oh, I kind of hate everybody and I'm sort of, like, intensely focused, to see him drop all of that really rocked me to my core. I was absolutely floored. Anyway, that's my TED Talk.
Oh, I'm so glad you went on the TED Talk, Jamie. I'm here for it. I am here for it. And it is such an impactful scene, and really well done. And yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And speaking of Akihiko, we should talk about him a little bit next.
Oh,
he's the drummer.
I was thinking of that meme that was like, I don't know what the meme was originally for, but in my mind, it's like, during the show Akihiko, like, hell yeah, Akihiko, and during the movie Akihiko, it's like, hell no, Akihiko.
Yes, I would agree. It's like Akihiko is the best big brother, basically, to these two idiots, and then in the movie he is a bad boy.
You realize that he has a lot of other problems going on, and I don't mean just problems happening to him. I mean, like, problems that are his fault.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goodness. So Akihiko was first actually a violinist.
Yeah.
And he was kind of going down that route, and then met
Ugetsu, right?
Yes, that's it. Ugetsu, who is an even better violinist.
Oh, he's like some kind of savant, master, whatever the term would be for it, yeah.
Yeah. And so Akihiko, like, basically ends up quitting the violin because Ugetsu is so good. And I feel like that should be your first clue that something's not, that maybe your relationship isn't.
Oh boy.
Like, if you're quitting something because of them, maybe question that a little bit.
That was the first in a series of unfortunate events, as it were.
Yes. And
a series of unfortunate choices. How about that? Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is. And so in the TV show, Akihiko and Ugetsu are definitely in it, have an impact on a lot of things, but like the movie is about them.
Yeah.
And goes even deeper into the backstory there. But basically, like, Akihiko is rooming with Ugetsu, living in his house. They've had a past relationship, but it's still kind of like a weird open relationship.
Yeah.
And Akihiko really is the guy who's like kind of just running around with girls and guys.
Agreed.
And has some of his own struggles to work through. And not like, you know, not having many partners that are dedicated and loving, but just literally just having like one night stand things that are not helping him. And so Akihiko, it's just like, again, like going between the TV show and the movie, it's
so
like
different.
It's like two completely different people. It's like two different sides of the person, right? Because like from in the TV show, we're getting the point of view of the high school students to Akihiko, who's in college, and like and then in the movie it's like, no, this is the truth of what's going behind the scenes. And it was so good because like the other member of the band is Haruki, who is the bassist. And in the TV show, like, I was even wondering, I was like, oh, there's got to be more with Haruki and Akihiko, you know, and I was hoping for more, and I didn't get it. Well, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
in the movie, I got it. I got more than I asked for, frankly.
I thought I was prepared.
I was not. But Haruki has a huge crush on Akihiko.
Oh, yeah.
And like Jamie and I were messaging as we were watching it. We were just like, we feel so sorry for Haruki because he cares so much and loves him so much. And like Akihiko would just show up and like just be there.
Yeah.
You were like, does he know? And then in the movie you realize, he knew. Akihiko knew.
Oh, he knew. Oh, it's not a good reveal, but he knew.
He knew.
Man.
Oh no. And so there's just so much going on with like Akihiko, Haruki, and Ugetsu. Like, I mean that basically kind of sums it up, I guess. But like, that well is so deep, and I don't even know what to do with that information. But it's just well done.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Like, it sucks because Haruki is, God, nothing but good things for Haruki. I just want, this man is so pure. Like, in the show, he is so incredibly supportive all the time. He's like, I've decided that these two younger guys in my band are my children. I am going to encourage them every step of the way. I'm going to, like, put aside my own worries and my own problems to try to help them out all the time.
He's definitely the dad friend.
He's the dad. He's so sweet. And, like, the show gives you a little bit of his worries about, like, his unrequited feelings for Akihiko and, like, worrying a little bit about the band and their future. But for the most part, he's just there. He's, like, everyone's pillar. Even though he's also kind of the comic relief. Like, they play pranks on him and stuff a lot. It's sort of bizarre. But, like, oh my goodness, he's so... He has a couple scenes where he talks about what it was like when Oyama joined the band. And he effectively says, like, yeah, I knew right away that he was gonna far outshine me pretty quickly. I knew that he is better than me and is going to be better than me, and I can't wait to see how far he goes. And I was like, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry again. I'm gonna cry right now. I'm gonna never stop crying, because this man is more than any of them deserve.
Truly. truly.
Oh my
Truly.
Lord. Yeah.
He deserves so much
good.
more.
And he is the one who, more than anyone else, just gets, like, trampled. In the show, it happens comedically and with very low stakes. And in the movie, it's much more legitimate and hard to watch. And I feel terrible for him emotionally. Whew.
Yes, yes.
Haruki's the best. Yeah.
Taking this chance, I guess, to talk more deeply about the film.
Yeah.
But, like, I was so excited, like, getting to know more and, like, about these two and, like, seeing maybe more of relationship develop. But, like, I was surprised about, like, so many things. But the Ugetsu Akihiko story, and how complicated it is. Like I really haven't seen these sort of complicated interactions in an anime before. Like, truly, because, like, Ugetsu is basically trying to push Akihiko away, but he's still deeply, deeply in love with him.
Oh, it's so strange. Honestly, I adore the decision to make him sympathetic. Because once again, it would have been so easy to be like, Ugetsu actually sucks, and Akihiko needs to get away from him, and everything would be better because he's a bad guy. It would have been so much easier. But instead, they were like, we're actually going to make you kind of feel bad for this guy. We're going to give him some scenes where he explains what he's thinking and what he's feeling, and how, even though he's made some bad choices and he's treated people poorly, just like Akihiko has, he is still miserable. And, like, when that's put into words, when that's put into a speech to Mafuyu, I believe, when that's put into words, you can't just purely dislike him. Like, it's sudden, you're like, oh man, suddenly things are more complicated than that. Suddenly I want all three of these people to be happy, and it feels like there's no way to do that. It's so rough, man.
It's so hard. And, like, Ugetsu is trying to do what's best for Akihiko in a way as well. Like, because, like, ultimately, Akihiko does leave Ugetsu and is able to pick up the violin again. And is, you know, and it's just like, that is such a sweet, beautiful symbol of, like, him being free of that relationship.
Oh my gosh.
And it just makes me tear up. Like, I love that.
I felt so dumb when I got to the end of the film and I realized, oh, every time he talks about the difference between drums and violin, he's talking about his relationships. Or not literally his relationship with Haruki, but he's talking about the different times of his life, at least. Yes. I was like, I can't believe I didn't put that together until the very end.
I mean, yeah, it's so well done. And, like, and even Akihiko, right? Like, Akihiko should be the hero of the story, and he is shown as a villain as well.
Yeah, right.
You know, so we take Ugetsu and we take Akihiko, and they switch their roles a little bit in some ways, and they make you see the good and the bad in them. So, like, just to say the elephant in the room, Akihiko borderline rapes Haruki.
That was hard to watch. That was really bad.
It's very rough. Because, you know, he has feelings for Haruki as well, but he goes into this interaction with... It's spite and anger towards Ugetsu that is fueling this, instead of a love and a care and compassion for Haruki. And it's very hard to watch, and it's
kind of manipulating, like, because he reveals that he knows how Haruki feels about him, and he's kind of manipulating that in, like, a really awful way.
Yes.
It's kind of reprehensible, actually. And, like, I don't 100% know if I'm feeling fine about the way they wrapped that up, but I will say they do spend a lot of the rest of the runtime having him apologizing to Haruki specifically, and also at the very end, before he even hugs him, he says, "Am I allowed to touch you?" And, like, that doesn't make up for it. That doesn't absolve what happened. I'm just saying, as far as storytelling goes, that does a pretty good job of starting to come back from that, right? Like,
absolutely. I thoroughly appreciated that ask for consent at the end.
Yeah.
And it's just so complicated, right? Because I was so happy at the end when they were like, let's start over and let's try again. And of course, Akihiko and Haruki try just get a new chance. And Akihiko is making all these great changes for Haruki, right? But in the back of my head, yeah, there's this really horrible thing that Akihiko has done. And I don't know if I truly would forgive him. But then again, it's Haruki who is forgiving him in the first place, and it's his place to do that. But wow,
that ending is such a it's such a punch to the gut, because I don't think I fully caught on to everything that was going to happen, even though if I had been thinking forward a little bit more, I probably could have predicted it. But it ends with a bit of a cliche. I'm running to catch this person before they have to leave their train because I have to catch up to them and tell them how I feel. But it's not confessing. It's that he has to tell him specifically, no, I really am breaking up with you. And we have to not be in each other's lives anymore because we're bad for each other.
Yeah, between Akihiko and Yugetsu.
And also, specifically, I'm sorry. And, like, that was hard to watch. I was like, good, gotta do it, it's important, great, good stuff. It's still hard to watch. But after that, when Ugetsu finally starts crying and turns around and reaches for him, and he's already gone, and he just has to lower his arm, acknowledge that happened, and acknowledge that he's not over him in the slightest, and turn around and try to, like, move on with his life. I wanted to scream. I was hurting.
I was losing my mind.
My lord. Oh. 'Cause, like,
I was losing my mind.
They made him so likable, even though you know he's not going to end up with one of the main characters. Mm-hmm. They still made him... Oh, okay. Ugetsu has a line that made me want to start sobbing, because there's a point where he says, I know... No. He says, I want the pain to stop. He's talking about his relationship with Akihiko, right? He says, I want the pain to stop, but I'm not ready for this apartment to be so much more empty. And I was like, that's it. You know it's something bad that needs to end, but you cannot let go and be on your own again. Like, I'm lucky enough that I haven't been in a situation like that, but that is such a sympathetic and understanding look at why people get stuck in this kind of relationship. Like, it's not blaming them. It's not saying, oh, well, you just shouldn't have done this in the first place. It's very, like, it's such a compassionate look at it. And that's what makes it hurt even more at the end. Mm. Oh, man.
It does. It's like Ugetsu and Akihiko are both kind of like, they're afraid of that change. They've just been together so long, and they have had their routine down so long, and they both hopefully will be healthier. And that's, that maybe that's a somewhat of a failing of this film too, that because Ugetsu is such a big part of the film, that we don't get to see maybe a ray of hope for him, and maybe it doesn't need it, but like, Akihiko gets that ray of hope in Haruki, and I guess in my own head, I would hope, and maybe the manga touches on it, but like that Ugetsu,
I bet it does, yeah.
Yeah, that Ugetsu finds a little more freedom in his life, just like Akihiko is able to play the violin again and find Haruki again,
Yeah, and the other reason I'm confident that is the case is because the song at the end of the movie, during the film, Mafuyu is talking to Ugetsu, which is hilarious because he just like shows up at his apartment and he's just like, hey, I want to learn more from you. And the guy's just like, okay, I don't really know you, but go off, I guess. And Mafuyu basically asks for his story, and no, I'm dumb. He doesn't ask for it. Ugetsu tells him unprompted, and Mafuyu is like, why are you telling me all this? And he just straight up looks at him and says with like a casual smile, oh, it's because I don't have any friends.
Yep. That's Ugetsu, everybody.
Oh my gosh, he's wild. He's like always pretending everything is fine, and it's clearly not. But anyway, Mafuyu like hears this story from him, and Ugetsu even gives him permission. He's like, you can use this in your lyrics if you want. And I think he was kind of joking, like maybe he didn't expect him to actually do it, but like the song Mafuyu writes at the end of the film is not just about that story. It is also directly to Ugetsu with lyrics like, the dawn will come again, and I know even though you're losing something now, I know you're going to be able to find it again with someone else. And And like Ugetsu's there at the concert, and he hears that, and he's like, "Oh, I get it." And he sees Mafuyu singing, he sees Akihiko, and he sees Haruki. And all three of those people, you just see him looking at them and being like, "Oh, suddenly so much more is making sense." And that is not a guarantee that things are going to be better for this man in the future. That is not carte blanche. Everything is fine now. Everything is fixed. But it felt like such a restorative moment. It felt like such a somebody hearing exactly what they needed to hear. And it made me love Mafuyu a lot more, obviously, because he's like, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna do what everyone's been telling me, and like write what I'm trying to write, but I also want to help this person, who I've learned about, and I want to help with their situation, and like. It's a good song too. It makes me cry when I listen to it again. Oh my goodness.
Aww, yeah.
God, guys, the movie. I cannot express how jarring the movie is after you've watched the show, because like it's the same art, it's the same characters, it's the same setting, and you feel like you know what you're getting in for, and you did not.
It completely pulled the rug out from under me. And I literally was like, oh, you know what? I don't have a ton of time this evening, the other night. Like, I was like, I'm going to watch half of it now, and I'll watch the rest of it the next day. No, I watched the entire thing in one sitting because, like, I was, like, so engrossed in what was going on. And it truly did leave me with more, like, I was just like, what?
It's what? Heavy. It's definitely... I don't want to say it's a dark story because that makes that has the implication that like people die and stuff. But it's definitely a heavier story, It
is heavy. It's heavy. Yeah. It is very heavy. And so it definitely left me with more it had more emotional resonance for me than the show. And
I can get that.
I really am just like, wow. Wow. That movie.
Yeah.
Is wild. And again, like, it's just this weird, like, not super, it's all very gray, and like ultimately I was very happy and very, like, I was just happy for Haruki and like hopeful for Akihiko and him, but like you just, there's still that weight on it, and it's just like, wow. I mean, for a show to just, just for a film, I should say, to be able to like to do this to your emotions, like, this is a good film. This is a good film. This is just a good film.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is something I never could have expected before I hit play, which is always a huge plus. Mm-hmm. And it's not the full length of like a feature film. I believe it's about 55 minutes, so it's a lot longer than an episode, but it's quite a bit shorter than a movie. So it's not like,
no, it's not that long.
Yeah, it's not super daunting, which is nice. This is pivoting quite a bit, but there's a really great parallel of the end of the show when Mafuyu and Uenoyama basically like formally ask permission of the other band members to start dating.
Yes.
And like it's hilarious because they're all everyone is concerned, but it has nothing to do with them being gay. They're just concerned because band members dating is like a bad idea, and they're worried that they're going to be in the spotlight and people are going to like start rumors about them and it's going to hurt the band. So they're like supportive but also intensely worried, and it's so cute. But the movie, the after credit scene is the other two asking permission of them. And it kills me because in like the same shot you get Mafuyu like blinking with very little expression on his face and being like, oh, that's nice, congratulations you guys, and it goes over to Uenoyama, who's like on his hands and knees on the floor like sobbing and saying like, the band's gonna break up, we're all goners, this is gonna fall apart.
We're just a band
we
of
have two
couples
in the band.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, I was
so
a huge
good.
fan. Yeah.
I mean, wow, yeah, we just went through so much like about the show, but like I don't know, are there any other specific moments or episodes you wanted to touch on?
Little bit. The OVA is not super plot heavy, so it's more of just like a supplement than anything. But it takes the events of the movie, and it basically just shows you what the other two were doing. Like what Uenoyama and Mafuyu, they were just hanging out most of the time, not having this huge, incredibly emotional story going on. They're mostly just vibing, right? There is one pretty intense scene where they're arguing a little bit just about some stuff that happened and like not being able to reach each other by phone and stuff. And Mafuyu suddenly looks super panicked and you don't know why, but then you realize through a couple lines of dialogue like, oh, last time he had a fight with his significant other, he never got the chance to resolve it because everything went horribly, horribly wrong and then someone was dead. And like seeing Uenoyama realize that, and just suddenly stop everything he was arguing and just give him a big hug instead and just like stand there completely frozen for a while really got me. That was rough.
My heart. Yeah, wow.
It was it was such a sweet moment. But like the rest, it doesn't really have a ton of plot other than that. There's a good chunk of time dedicated to them having their first sleepover and Uenoyama panicking because he thinks they might be about to do stuff. They actually don't. They end up just talking instead. But there's a lot of time dedicated to showing what a nervous dork he is.
Such a nervous dork.
And then
it
turns out it's fine. They don't even do anything.
It's totally fine.
But
of course.
yeah, no, it's cool getting their side. Mm-hmm. It's not even their side of that story because they're not in it a ton, but it is their side of Mafuyu writing this song. So like you get to the end of the OVA and he sings a much more reserved, quiet version of the song, but instead of being on a stage with lots of people judging them for this contest, it's back in the stairwell, and it's just him by himself, and he's just singing it very quietly, and through a couple of little flashback shots, you realize, oh, of course, this is also partially about Yuki. Like, yeah, he wrote this song based on Ugetsu and for that whole situation, but of course he put his own experiences into it. And, like, even though the show ended with him making a lot of strides forward in how he's, like, processing his grief and, like, deciding who he is and stuff, of course that's not completely finished yet. So you get a really nice snapshot of him continuing his journey, essentially, of, like, what he wants to be, I guess, and, like, how he's managing what he feels and everything. And there's something really sweet about that. Even if it's not the most exciting plot in the world, it was really nice to watch. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's those little moments and things that I really enjoy about shows like this. And, like, proving, like, not every show needs to have, like, edge of your seat plot or something. You know, like, it's just, like, these little things that really make a difference. But speaking of bigger plot points.
Okay.
I will say one of my favorite parts in the show is, you know, at the end of this series, you know, there's the season, there's the big song that he sings, and he finally lets out his feelings and all of these wonderful things. And then, like, Oniyama and Mafuyu, like, go off stage for a little bit.
They literally just walk off stage, and no one was ready for them to do that, so they just have to, like, awkwardly talk to the audience for a while.
Yeah, they're just, like, jamming, waiting for them to get back.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
And that's when they have their first kiss, and I was just like,
oh yeah.
And of course, both of them are just like, what? Just like, things go so quickly in that time period that like Winayama doesn't even process that he kissed him until like the next day, and I find that the most perfect thing that like that is Winayama
so
to a
funny.
T.
Oh yeah,
like finally kissing this boy he likes, and then not even like recognizing it and processing that until the next day, and he was like, "Did that happen? Did I do that? What?"
Yeah. Emotions were flying high. They were at a concert. Things were crazy.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
Oh, his reactions in that ending of the show are so good, because this is a similar moment to that, because at the second to last episode ends with Mafuyu saying, "I like you," which technically he hadn't said just because of plot reasons. There was a lot of other stuff going on. So he hasn't literally said the words is it "I love you"? Wait a minute, hold on. I wrote this down. It is "I love you." Yeah. He says "I love you." Yeah, that's why it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends. And you load up the next episode. And you watch through the intro. And you finally come back to the story. And you've had that buffer in between, right? So when the first thing Wenayama says is, what, like in a friendship way? I lost my mind. I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
Winayama,
My boy.
dork.
My child. I don't know how to make this clearer.
I don't know what to tell you, bud.
But that also leads into one of the greatest scenes in the entire show, which you could argue is a little random and out of place, but I don't care because it's the best bit of animation I've ever seen, where we see the Earth's orbit, and we see like titanic comets and mountains rising up over the plains and like dwarfing out the sun. And as they get closer and closer, you realize it's just the words "It's mutual" showing up in the sky behind him.
Yes.
And then, while you're still reeling from that, we go into Ryunoyama's mind, which is, of course, all the different parts of his personality yelling at each other, trying to panic and what to do next, but also having a farewell party for his virgin self. Oh, I was losing it. Because, like, one of them is excited, one of them is afraid, one of them's freaking out, and the one that, like, gets them all to shut up and sit down is the one that's like, "Guys, we're in a band. If we have a relationship in the band, everything's gonna go badly. What do we do about this?" And then they're having, like, a council meeting where they're all trying to, like, decide, what's our best move here? What do we do about this situation?
Oh, the look into his brain. Oh my goodness.
Lord. It's so unexpected, and again, I get the criticism that it's a little out of place.
It's very out of place, but it's very funny.
It's also my favorite thing I've seen, so I don't care that much.
It's just like they don't do this at any other point in the show.
It's wild.
And then it's just like, but it just. How else do you encapsulate exactly what's going on, like, in his mind?
Yeah,
it's so good. Oh,
you gotta show his feelings somehow.
Yeah.
The actual music that is performed in the show is so good. It's written by a band called Sentimilamental. That's the band that wrote the music. But in everything I could find, it just said "performed by Given." I don't know what that means, because I don't think there's a real band called Given. But it could be. It also could just mean that it was, like, performed by the people who worked on the show, maybe?
Well,
I'm not 100%
I wonder,
sure.
like, I don't even know. I should have looked this up, but I don't know if the voice actors are also the singers or not. Like, I would assume not, but also, who knows?
Partially, yes. You know the ending theme song with his dog walking along and looking up at the stars, which is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life?
Yeah?
That is Mafuyu's voice actor singing. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. It's so good.
Mafuyu must actually sing the stuff in the show then.
I believe so, yes. I believe
great.
so. No, his voice actor is incredible. The opening thing slaps. The ending theme is really, really cute and emotional. And I love his pet dog named Kadama. And the first thing... I gotta mention this. The first thing they play for Mafuyu when he asks to hear something from the band is a song that's in 5/4 time, which is incredibly difficult and weird, and you didn't have to do that, but you did, and you just went for it, and I'm so happy because it was delightful. The song that Mafuyu writes and works on, and Uenayama writes too, because he's writing the music, I forgot. But they're writing it together over the course of the show. You can hear bits and pieces of it before they even say, this is the song we're working on. Like, you hear it in the little melody that Mafuyu sings, but you also hear it when Uenayama is just strumming his guitar. You hear that song on a rewatch, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's the song. And then finally, at the end of the show, it all comes together in this moment where Mafuyu is like, the lyrics are done, but I can't sing them. I'm not able to do that because I'm still too afraid to. And they're like, you know what? We're out of time. That's okay. We love you anyway. We're going to perform it instrumentally.
Yes.
And they go up on stage. And everyone is watching, and they're like, oh yeah, here we go, ready to rock out. And they get through the intro to the song, and Mafuyu walks up to the microphone and starts singing the first word, and everyone loses it. No one is ready for this. None of the characters are expecting it. And I wasn't expecting it because I'm dumb. And I probably could have expected it if I was thinking about it a little bit more, but it didn't occur to me that this might happen. And it is one of the most incredible musical moments I've ever seen in anime. Because, like, it is so... There's that element of being unexpected, but there's also the fact that it is the culmination of everything that has been going on with Mafuyu's character. And, like, you suddenly get more details of what was going on with his backstory, and you realize that he's finally taking this step that he's been really, really afraid to take. And it is just... I can never say enough about this song and this scene, because it is the pinnacle of the show. It's like everything they've been building towards, and they nail it. The song is so good. And you can hear the melody line is that little simple song way back in episode, 2. And it's the song that he used to sing, that Yuki used to sing to him. Oh my gosh, that's right.
It's just so much.
Oh my gosh. And he made the lyrics about losing him and trying to move on from that. I will never be able to say enough good things about that. And then, like you said, the ending... the song ends and they're just so spent emotionally, so they just walk off stage and the kiss, and oh man, the next episode starts and it's just hysterical because they're like, Mafuyu, you didn't actually play guitar, you just you forgot to actually play. It was really bad, actually.
After everyone has just been floored by this amazing song, they're like, actually though, you need to play you spent all that time learning how to play guitar.
You are also a guitarist, my dude. Yeah. Oh, that was funny.
So good.
The songs are so good. I think there are only 5 or 6 different songs that have full lyrics and everything. But obviously the score music is really good too, because it's a show about music, and they put so much time into the band plot that it doesn't even feel unnecessary. I feel like sometimes in romance shows, it can kind of feel like the setting is just there to be the background and to be the B plot, and the important thing is the romance. And the romance is super important, but I love how detailed and excited the story is about the band and the music stuff too. They're like, no, we're gonna really spell this out, and we're gonna really make this a tangible thing that they're working towards, and it's important. Not just in how it ties into everything with Mafuyu and Uenayama, because it does, but also just in its own, we want our band to be good, and we want to practice, and we want to perform well at this next concert or festival or whatever, and that's genuinely fun. Just seeing how they work with, the other people at this concert hall, and trying to find new equipment, and how their practice sessions go. All of the band stuff is so cool and so interesting, and if it wasn't, I think if the romance wasn't there, I would still find it pretty fun and interesting.
They go really, they do a good job of, just portraying music and band culture and all of that as well. So it's a winner, folks.
Oh my gosh, I love it dearly.
Well, thank you, Jamie, for introducing me to Given.
Yeah, of course. It was, and I say this 100% without exaggeration, it is my pleasure to tell anyone about this show. It's so much fun, and I love talking about it, yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you have thoughts on Given, please let us know. Yeah. You can reach us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Fanimated Podcast, or email us at fanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. You can become a patron at patreon.com/Fanimated. Thank you to everyone who does support the show and keep us on the air. Or, if you can't donate $1 here or there, that's okay. Leave us a rating and review. That also helps a lot and much appreciated. During our What You're Watchings, we normally read some of those, so be sure to leave us a rating and review. If you have a, recommendation for what we should be watching next, definitely leave it there as well so that we can know what we should be watching. And the music is done by this guy named Jamie Krause.
Some dude, I don't know. He's weird. I don't know.
I think he's on our podcast sometimes.
This is like the 4th or 5th time I've tried to think of something funny to say in response to that, and every time I've failed.
Well, guess what, Jamie? You'll have more opportunities. So I now you've raised a bar, and I'm going to now be expecting something. Do your homework and come back with a response.
What a mistake that was to say just now.
Oh dear. The art is done by myself, and my Instagram is @CandorDraw. We'll be back in a couple weeks with a What You're Watching that Jamie and I just recorded.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for some Oron High School Host Club discussion in the next episode. And in the meantime, I hope you are enjoying your summer, and stay tuned.
And stay animated. Also, Mafuyu's dog is the best character in anime.
Best character.
He just hangs out and smiles at everyone all the time and just kind of waddles around.
Sweetest little puppy. I'm going to steal him.
I want to say a Shiba? I could be wrong, though.
I have no idea.
Yeah.